Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you saw my last video, I've literally got the lower end put back together, with a short block anyway. I'm gonna kind of do this in the not right order because I need to order some more parts for the oil pump, and that's actually the next step to do is put the oil pump on. I need seals for that, and I need to order those seals, and they are, once again, quite pricey, so order everything at once. It's usually a little bit cheaper shipping wise. So as far as the cylinder heads go, I did the port side one already. I need to order some new shims because there's the shims are just a couple of these are not in spec, so I need to order some new ones. And what I'm going to show you is redoing the starboard side cylinder head. So I've already had this decked, I've already lapped the valves. All I need to do now is put the stem seals in, these guys, and put the springs back on, and with their little keepers. So I watched a bunch of videos on how to do these valve lappings, and I could of course had the machine shop to do it, but that would have cost me more money. And of course I'm trying to do this as money conscious as possible, because you know there's just no such thing as a rich boater. So what I did, get this out, is I lapped these valves with some traditional valve lapping compound. BB, it stands for bottom cylinder head bottom, which this one looked like this. Is for the other cylinder head, so it looked like this. Took the lapping compound as such, and you know, I did it what you would normally do, but I took the suction cup and I attached it to my little impact with an Allen head on it, and I just went a couple seconds one way and a couple seconds back the other way, and that really worked out pretty well. It sped this process up a lot. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm just going to show you what I got to do to put the stem seals back in. We're going to clean it up, put the valve springs back in, and see where we're at. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to be able to adjust the clearance on these with these valve shims. Now, the full disclosure, this is a very, very time consuming process because you got to put them in, you got to take them out, put them in, take them out, put them in, take them out, measure them, do the math, whatever. So I'm hoping that the valve shims I have will all work. I don't know, but as I go along, I'll try to do my best to explain everything. Pretty good much got this thing cleaned up. There was some debris down there, so I wanted to make sure to get it out before I put those seals on. Got the valves ready and standing by right here, and to put these valve stem seals in is pretty simple. So get your valve stem seal. I know there's things you can actually use for this to do it, but a 5/8 socket would work just fine with this. So all I'm going to do is take this, maybe put an extension on this. Sit her down like so, right over the guide. And it'll center itself up. That's it. She is on there. So I'm going to do that with the rest of these, and I'm pretty much going to time lapse that for you. So here we go with that. All the valve guide seals are in, and all we got to do now is put the valves in and put the springs on and their associated keepers. So in order to do that, I have this spring compressor tool that, you know, was $25 on Amazon, and well worth it because I've already used it more than once. But I'm just going to put their valves in the associated spots where I had labeled them. So this would be middle bottom, cylinder wise anyway. And you can tell the difference between one's exhaust, because this one's bigger. The exhausts are smaller, so it's pretty easy to tell apart. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'll show you how I do one, and then I'm just gonna time lapse the rest. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is have everything kind of pre-staged here. So got my valve, the spring itself, the little keepers right here, and the top said spring. So everything's been cleaned. All I gotta do is put everything together. So, but before that, I'm gonna put some assembly lube on it. Just put it up here with the rest of it, or in its location, which is the top. So this is the very top one, and she goes in just like that. So valve spring goes over said valve, and then I can use my compressor screwdriver. That's a lot easier to turn that thing versus the little rod it came with. It's not very great, but it'll work. I'll roll this down here like so, just enough to where I get the keepers in. Leave myself some room. So with that, I have it centered up on the valve on that end and centered up over the spring on this end. Sorry about the camera work. I'm doing my best here. So all I gotta do now is put those little keepers in there, and to help me out with it, I will use some Vaseline to kind of get the just a stick onto the stem. So I don't need much, I just need enough to do what I need to do and then move on to the next one. A little Vaseline. This is the tricky part, is getting these keepers in there and getting them to stick and stay. Once they're in there, they're in there. So get yourself a good set of needle nose pliers. And then go ahead and insert, get it to stick. Same thing with the other one. All right, so if you can see down here, these little things got to be just right. So I got to make sure that these things are in there. Use these little picks to help you out if you need it. So it looks good. And then all we have to do now is loosen her back up, and she's in there. All right, one down, 12 more to go. All right, so we got all the valves in, the springs, and their associated keepers. Actually got pretty good at it, just with a couple with that pair of needle-nose pliers and some of the picks. So basically, what I'm going to do now is going to be the most time-consuming part of this whole deal. Is we're going to put each of these cups in. There's 12 of them. I know I got some extras over here, but that's from the old head. And we got shims. Now each of these shims have a number on the back, and like this one, you can probably barely see it, but that says 2.60, so it's 2.60 millimeters. All right, so how I'm going to do this is I'm going to put the caps on, put a shim in it, write it down on a piece of paper. Like this shim was 2.52, so I'll write it down and see what the clearance is between that and the cam. And what I'll do is I'll put the cams on, and I'll just run the bolts down to where they're cinched down. You know, they're not torqued, but they're down enough to where it'll give me a good reading. So I'm gonna kind of I guess I'll time lapse it, because it's not really something that you're gonna have to sit around and wait to get done. So here this goes. All right, so got the cylinder head assembled. The buckets and the shims are in, and now it's going to be time to see our checker valve clearance. So according to the manual, valve clearance is going to be cold, so it's going to be 0.20 plus or minus 0.03 millimeters, or 0.008 plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch. That's for the intake side. Exhaust will be 0.34 plus or minus 3 millimeters, or 0.013 plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch. So for this head, we're going to start with the intake. And I basically took the feeler gauges out of the device because it's just so much easier to work with for this whole thing. Because this is quite time consuming, and I don't really want to sit there and fumble with it. So I just took it out, and I'll just use this as a need. So basically, I'm just going to go through, like, this 0.008 clears, or it has a little bit of drag. I'm going to try the 0.009 or the 0.229 in this case. So that doesn't fit, but that 0.08 does. And so I got to do each and every one of these. And basically, when I need to move on to the next lobes, I'm just going to take a 23 millimeter wrench and roll the cam over. Or I found a 15/16 inch wrench will actually work a little bit better because I have a little bit more wiggle room. So I got to do this, and whatever's not in spec, I'll have to take the cam out, take the shim out, either add or subtract to it, and get it back in tolerance. Okay, so I just did the intake side. They all measured within tolerance. I'm going to do the exhaust side. So like we said earlier, the exhaust side is going to be 0.33 or 0.34 plus or minus 0.03 millimeters, or 0.013 to plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch. So I got my 3 here that it needs to be within, and then I'm going to do the same exact thing. All right, so everything on this head checked out well. They were all within 1/1000th of an inch, or 0.03 millimeters. Had to check back at the manual for a second. But everything seems to be good on this head. So this head is ready to go on. I'm going to do the exact same thing to the port head, the port side cylinder head, and hopefully we get that thing ready to go on. Hopefully I don't have to order any more of these shims, because these things from Yamaha are very expensive, and one of these things, depending on the size, is either from $15 to $18 a pop. That's ridiculous. So okay, I'm gonna do the starboard or port side cylinder head, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so just got done measuring everything on the port side head. With the exception of 3, they all checked out fine. These 2 measured out a little on the loose side at 3.05. That's a little loose for the intake. Actually, that's quite loose. That's about five spots where it needs to be. And then this measured out at 2.79, which is about 4 spots where it needs to be. So this one measured out at 0.381 millimeters, which is about at least 1 to 2 spots where it needs to be. So I need thicker shims for this one, and this one. And so what we're going to do, we can take these cams back off. I'm going to pop these out to see which one they are and which ones I'll need. Okay, so got the bolts spun out. They're not torqued. They're just ran down with the little impact. It's not torqued. This one was the 2.56, which was here. These 2 were my problem childs. 2.62 and 2.60 were respectively these. So I think I actually used this 2.62 here, and I only got to buy 2 shims for here, which saves me a lot of time and a lot of headache. So what I'll do is I'll actually put this shim back on, put the cam back in, put the caps back on, and remeasure it just to make sure and verify that shim was good. If it's too thick, then I can go down to this 2.60, and that should do it. Okay, so earlier we said that the shims were too thin for these 2 intake valves that I have up here. And they measured out at 0.305 millimeters, or 0.012 thousandths of an inch. So I need to close that gap between the shim and the cam. So I need to take this number and increase it. So what I'm going to do is take 0.305, use a calculator here. So 0.305 0.5, subtract that, the difference where I want to be at 0.203, so minus 0.203 equals 0.102 millimeters. So I want to add that to the current, I want to add that difference to the shim that I have. So plus 2.60 is going to be 2.70. That's the size of the shim that I need to get. And the same thing with this one. This one had a really big gap compared to this one. So we'll do the same thing. So we're gonna, but this one measured out at 0.356 millimeters. So we're gonna take the difference, 0.356, subtract where I need to be at 0.203, so minus 0.203, and we get 0.153 millimeters. That's the amount I need to close on this 2.56. So we're gonna take that sum, add it to 2.56, and I'm gonna come out with 2.713. So in the grand scheme of things, I probably need 2 shims that are 2.70, and that will more than likely get me to where I need to be.